Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and the first segment would be focusing, as we did see in the report, about the 30th Arab Summit in Tunisia and the participation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and analyzing the speech of President al-Sisi as well as the main events of the summit in Tunisia. Dr. Cherif Amir, how do you see the importance of holding this summit in Tunisia at this timing?
Well, this is one of the most important summits of the Arab League, because it has plenty of odd events. First of all, it's the first time that a part of an Arab country has been given away by another country, third country, to Israel. I mean by that the Golan Heights. Usually, since the creation of the Arab League, it was always military aggression, and then the Arab League gathers to find a solution and help the country, whether it was during the 1967 war or even the Kuwait-Iraqi war. It was always like that. Now, it's something odd also happens, that there is no seat for Syria.
Yes.
The importance in all that is that now it's very clear to everyone that Egypt's positions from the beginning were really targeting the main headline, which is the sovereignty of Syria, which is the respect of the decision of the people of Syria and the unity of this nation. So, and this is exactly what President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi highlighted today, is that there is no peace in this region whenever there is alternative ways except negotiations. It's very clear.
Yes.
And we have seen today that President al-Sisi, all what he said it before in 2014 when he became president, is that we have to work together as one political or geopolitical power. And unfortunately, this didn't happen for a while. And he at that time made a clear alert that if this would not take place, this unity, he talked about the Arab force, he talked about one position towards all the issues, that we will find this disintegration of Arab countries. And this is not what we wish to see. But unfortunately, we're witnessing it. But it's never too late.
So how do you see the unified stance of the Arab states, and more specifically Egypt, in condemning the American recognition of the Golan Heights as Israeli lands?
Well, I'm really satisfied that His Majesty King Salman of Saudi Arabia voiced his concern, because look, what took place in the Golan Heights about the decision of President Trump, it was about a bargaining table talking about if we don't let Israel have the authority, then it will be the Revolutionary Guard of Iran, which is strategically approaching the Golan Heights. And this, of course, is a very sensitive issue, not only for Israel, but also for the Gulf states. And Egypt also is concerned about it, because we always said that the security of the Gulf states, and President Sisi said it very clearly, it's a red line. We would not permit anyone to harm our brothers in the Gulf states. So it was about that, whether you choose between the Iranians or then you have an alliance with the Israelis. Now, today, the Arab countries showed, and especially Saudi Arabia, that the position is very different than it was wished from the Americans, that no, there is no acceptance of this kind of let's say, deliverance of Arab territory to Israel. I think that President al-Sisi voiced also his concern, because he said it in the Munich conference before, that the source of all the problems is the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. Thus, we have to find a solution. And at that time, I remember very well that the Israeli press said it clearly, that he was the first Arab president who voiced really the real point, which is this conflict, that it should have a solution. I know that President Sisi has a very clear vision about the things, and he's very pragmatic about the solutions, and he never hides what he thinks about. He said it before, you have to have unified Palestinian front and then negotiate. There is no alternative for that.
Yes, President Sisi also spoke about developing the ways of combating terrorism in the Arab region and, of course, the world. He did speak about this before. How do you see the importance of having a unified stance between the Arab region, in the Middle East and in the Arab region, of course, with Egypt at the heart of it, in combating terrorism?
As I said, usually, fortunately, and unfortunately, Egypt had to fight terrorism in all the fronts.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we gained the experience. We're a very experienced country now in fighting terrorism on the military level, on the internal security level, even in the information level. So we know how to fight it, and now we're working on the ideological level also. I think that the President Sisi was very, very alerted from the first day when he became president that the danger of terrorism would spread everywhere, and it won't end at only threatening the stability of countries, but it will work on dividing the Arab countries.
Yes.
That's why we voiced our concern about Syria, and then we had President Trump who said, well, we finished the caliphate of Daesh in Syria, but there are remains of them in Iraq. Look at the action of Egypt. It was very, very smart. It was the trilateral summit between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, King Abdullah of Jordan, and the Prime Minister of Iraq. It was a few weeks ago. And this was a clear sign that, yes, if we finish with terrorism in Syria, we will not stay still, because we know that it has a circle that these elements who are not killed, who are just replaced, or they are leaving a country to another, at the end they will harm Jordan. This was geopolitically very, very well studied by us, by the Egyptians, is that they will harm Jordan, they are in Iraq, and then they will come to Egypt.
Yes.
So this was a preventive strategy, and I think that today President Sisi gave the vision that we are prepared for it, but we have to collaborate, we have to work together on it.
Yes, speaking of collaboration and working together in the Arab region, President Sisi also said that some foreign terrorists are being financed, are being funded and being assisted by some regional powers in the Middle East and in the Arab world. How do you see this? For their interests, of course.
Well, we have seen it that the Prince of Qatar left the summit because he didn't appreciate that we say the truth. Well, enough is enough at a certain time. As President Sisi said it before, what they wish to do to Egypt 7 years ago, because his statement was in 2018, won't happen again. And Egypt is different now. Egypt is very prepared. And as he said it when he was Minister of Defense, he said, we would not forget those who harmed Egypt. So I think that we will carry on this mission of fighting terrorism. We have been able to show to our friends in Europe that Turkey was financing terrorism, making blackmail. It's not Egypt's way of doing it. They try to portray Egypt as a wrong state or failed state. Well, they failed. And I think that now is the way back again, that we are telling the whole world that these are the powers who are financing terrorism. And if you want to find a solution, we have to work on it. And I'm very happy now that we are achieving this. I remember when there was the Palermo summit in Italy about Libya, the same event happened when President Sisi talked about financing terrorism. The representative of Turkey, he left the summit. So the same thing happened also with representative of the Prince Tamim of Qatar. They don't want to hear the truth, but
Yes.
we'll do it.
Yes, how would you comment on the withdrawal of the Prince of Qatar and not giving his speech today?
It's a sign that there is a very shaky diplomacy there.
Yes.
They don't have a clear strategy in facing things. They're not capable of handling the criticism. Well, we had a criticism from all the countries, and we still continue to explain our cause because we had a just cause. Whenever you have a just cause, you go on. You don't leave and withdraw.
Does this mean that he is under pressure, following the words that he did here today?
That means that not only he's under pressure, but also that he's feeling that he's being marginalized more and more, that he has no real strong ground. Because if we see, it wasn't Egypt's words that made him leave, it was Saudi Arabia. That means that even in the Gulf Security Council that it has, the Gulf states, I mean.
The CCC.
Yeah, that he feels that he's not welcomed anymore. Well, that means that he has very serious problems in diplomacy. All the calculations failed. They lost the ground in Syria, in the war in Syria. They didn't succeed in dividing Libya. They didn't succeed in harming Egypt's security. Well, they harmed us at a certain time, but then we were that strong. And let's not forget, they're not capable of facing the leadership of Egypt. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has a very charismatic way of presenting his case, and this is very, very different from Tamim. He has a way of defending the case very calmly and with a studied, very, very well-established plan. This is the difference of leadership. So it's normal that when you have a summit with leaders of states, whenever one decides to leave, that he's not capable of handling the discussion.
Yes, what are the interests, as you've mentioned, Dr. Cherif, of Qatar in harming Egypt, in harming Syria, in dividing Libya, and of course in Yemen?
Well, it's, they are working for foreign agendas also. Unfortunately, we tried several times mending fences with Qatar, explaining to them that it will be very harmful for them at the end, trying to destabilize Egypt's security, to say nasty things about us in Al Jazeera, trying to attack Egypt's position everywhere. That this is a from the beginning, it's a failed plan. It won't work because Egypt is a huge country with a very strong military establishment and a very political and diplomatic important force in this region. So it was very, very badly planned. But unfortunately, they went through it. They thought working with Turkey, things will change. Look now, Turkey is shifting between alliances from a day to another. One day there was the Americans in NATO, the second day there was the Russians, and now they are against everyone. They have terrible relations with all their neighbors. So these are the two countries who were allied. And then when he was isolated by the Gulf states and Egypt also, he was threatened because he felt that isolation it wasn't expected.
So what's next for the Arab states after condemning the recognition of the United States of the Golan Heights as Israeli lands?
I think that two major countries in this region, Egypt and the Emirates, they have a very coordinated way of establishing things. I think that the visit of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed 2 days ago to Al Alamein and his summit with President Sisi, I think this was a way to show that there is two major countries, as in Europe we say the Franco-German countries working together for the EU. Well, it's the same thing now. Egypt and the Emirates are coordinated. You see, the Emirates was the only country now establishing a consulate and an embassy in Damascus. under Bashar al-Assad's presidency.
Yes.
Egypt is voicing its concern that never we will accept that the sovereignty of Syria will be harmed. It's a strategic bound between us and Syria. So I think that the two countries will work in convincing Saudi Arabia and other countries that Syria has to have its chair again regained in place in the midst of the Arab League. The second thing is that we will have to work with the Russians, who has extremely important influence in the affairs of Syria.
Yes.
That working with the Arab countries will be also important for Russia, as they're working with the Iranians there. And from what I know from the informations, that President Vladimir Putin is not really happy with the extent of the Iranian presence there. He doesn't wish to see it like that.
In Syria.
So, in Syria,
yes.
Exactly. So I think he has excellent relations with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Both men are having, they had a very huge experience in intelligence services. They have popularity in their own countries. They know the dangers they're facing. So I think that the coordination between the two leaders could help very well the Arab League.
Yes, President al-Sisi also called for a wake-up call for a resolution to be solving the crises in the Middle East and in the Arab region in specific. One of them is the Palestinian cause.
Yes.
What do you think Egypt can be doing in the next months, in the next years, to be trying to solve the Palestinian cause?
First of all, Egypt has a huge role in saving lives.
Yes.
Whether for the Israelis or the Palestinians. Look, a few days ago, the war was, there were the 2 steps from the war
Yes.
between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And thanks to the Egyptian delegation, a ceasefire was broke. But let's not forget, this won't continue forever. We have a clear vision, and our intelligence service is working on it all the time. We're telling the Hamas government in Gaza, you have to be unified with Ramallah. You have to work under the presidency of the legitimate president, President Mahmoud Abbas.
Yes.
So it's very clear that if there will be no unified front for the Palestinians, there will be no negotiations, and there is no alternative way out of the negotiations. President Sisi said it. We will be always the mediator of peace. We were and we're still, and we are recognized like that. But there have to be an organized Palestinian home, and the government also of Israel understands that war would not be gaining them anything. There have to be security for all the partners, so there will be permanent peace. It will take time. And I think that Hamas has to listen to Egypt more than listening to Turkey or Qatar. They have to, or Iran even. They have to listen to Egypt, because we know the interest of the Palestinians, and we know the file very well. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is a very charismatic leader. They have to take advantage of that, because he can convince everyone of the Palestinian cause.
Yes, Dr. Cherif Amir, the professor of political science, thank you very much for being with us today on the Daily Debate.
Thank you.
And this